Nice. Oh, you know, usual.
Minute warning, folks. We do have some folks still coming in, but we'll get started, and it'll take me a few minutes to get through the pleasantries, so hopefully folks will be in the room by the time we actually start the meeting. Welcome to this special town meeting. I really appreciate everybody being here. Great to see a fairly full audience, so thank you for taking time out of your day to come. As I hope all of you know who have been here before, our goal here is to get to some group decisions as a town, informed by both the facts and opinions of our fellow residents. While there is a formal process that we're going to follow, one that's guided by law, prior town meeting votes, and tradition, please don't let that process intimidate you. Please don't let it get in the way of your involvement. If you want to accomplish something and you're not sure how, just wait for your turn at the microphone and then ask how you can accomplish what you're trying to do. And we'll share the best way to use procedure or the right pathway to get there. One of the hardest things about town meeting is that it's a forum for sharing facts and one's views on the items before us, but it's not a hearing or a listening session or a question and answer session. It's entirely appropriate for a resident to come to the microphone and point out a lack of information on a specific topic or raise a question that they have. But they should never address other individuals directly, include calling on specific people to answer their questions. And our format doesn't really allow for immediate answer to come from another party who might have the information that you seek. That person who has that information is going to need to raise their hand and ask to be recognized. They don't get to answer a question just because you asked it. And that takes some time because others might be in line in front of them. We generally let folks speak in the order that they seek the floor. So if somebody is speaking and you want to speak next, feel free to come down to the microphone and stand politely behind them. Don't get too close, don't make them uncomfortable, but just stand ready to be next if you would like to speak. And again, remember, we don't reference other speakers or meeting attendees directly. We really try to keep things from getting personal, and we want to focus on the items raised through motions. We can also only discuss, as I just mentioned, the items that are raised through motions, and we can only accept motions that are within the scope of the warrant. All substantive motions, so those that are not related to mere procedure of the meeting, must be made in writing. I recognize that sometimes the meeting might feel like it's moving quickly, and you might not feel like you have time to write down a motion and make sure the town clerk has it when you make it, but just come to the microphone and say that you have a motion to make. You just need a second to write it down, and I promise we won't outpace you, we won't get ahead of it. We'll give you the chance to write down that motion. But it is really critical for us to be able to have an accurate record of those motions that are made so that we can debate them properly. You should all have a wristband if we do hand votes. This will be important for me to see that you're voting with a hand that has a wristband. We also have these paper cards. If we need to do a ballot vote, these are going to be really important, so please don't lose it. If we do a ballot vote, we'll explain how that process is going to work, but do not lose this. You need it in order to vote. Even if we do a vote and you don't want to vote in that particular one, you'll need to turn this in to get the next color in case we have a second ballot vote. We've done this a few times, but just critically important not to lose your little piece of paper. In advance of this meeting, I had a few folks reach out to me and ask about time limits. Many years ago, we did move away from imposing time limits as a general rule at town meeting. But the meeting can impose them anytime it wants. Any registered voter may make a motion to limit debate, provided you're not interrupting a speaker already on the floor. A motion to limit debate is not debatable, and it does require a 2/3 vote to pass, but it's a pretty quick thing that we can do. For example, once we start the meeting, somebody could just rise and say at the microphone, "Mr. Moderator, I move that we limit debate to 5 minutes per speaker per question." And then we would quickly get a second and vote on that, if that's what the meeting wanted to do. And then that would be the time limit, per speaker, per question. until the meeting itself decided to change that rule or the meeting ended. For any questions of process or procedure, again, I'll be using town meeting time. We have town council here who's incredibly helpful in helping us stick to some of these procedural matters, but just ask if you have a question about the procedure. Any questions about tonight's town meeting before we get going? About how we do any of this stuff? See, yes.
Can we just ask if everybody received a handout? Some people didn't.
Did everybody get a copy of the warrant at the door? Anybody not have a copy? One person is saying they don't have a copy.
I'll get them.
All right. We've got a couple extra.
One for you.
Keep your hand up because
Keep your hand up.
we have a volunteer who's going to get you a copy if you need a copy. It's like we need a couple copies out there. Thank you very much for handing those out. One on my right, way in the back over here. Perfect. We got one there. Anybody else? Awesome.
They're right here if you need them.
By tradition, we do begin town meeting with a pledge of allegiance. Would all those who are able and wish please rise and join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Having received a copy of the signed warrant and the hour to which the town meeting was called having arrived, the town meeting is now in order. I ask unanimous consent to waive the reading of the warrant and to allow town council, a non-resident, to speak if necessary. Are there any objections to that? Seeing none, unanimously approved. Article 1, a new revolving fund.
I move that the town amend the Town of Northfield general bylaws pursuant to the provisions of Section 53E and a half of Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws, as amended at the annual town meeting on May 7th, 2018. Article 13, by inserting a new category to the revolving funds for recreation, out-of-school / vacation programs, specifying the departmental receipts to be credited to the fund, the departmental purposes or program for which the fund may be expended, and the entity authorized to expend the fund, and to see if the town will vote to fix the maximum amount that may be spent during fiscal year 2025, beginning on July 1st, 2024, for the revolving fund established in town bylaws in accordance with provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, 53E and a half, as printed in the warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation on this?
The Finance Committee supports this article.
Thank you. Yes, at the microphone.
All right, making sure this works. I'm Stacy Bond, 555 Pine Meadow Road, and the Director of the Northfield Recreation Commission.
And I'm Chelsea DePaul, 9 Riverview Drive, and I'm the Treasurer of the Recreation Commission.
And basically, this article is mostly just a formality to ask the town to add a second revolving account to our budget line items. It costs the taxpayers $0. We are requesting it so that we may keep better track of our income and expenses of our largest program, which is our out-of-school program. Currently, that includes our summer program, and we plan on also adding 2 vacation programs, one in February and one in April. Gotta get my notes. One clarification that I just want to point out is that can often be confusing is where it says FY25 limit for $35,000. All that means is that revolving accounts have different rules and stuff, and it just means that we can't hold more than $35,000 in that account. So that's basically it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Anybody else wish to speak to this item? Seeing none? All's in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Clearly passes unanimously. Please hold your applause, folks. Lots of time to express your approval through the vote. Article 2, transfer of free cash.
I move that the town transfer from free cash sum of $3,608 to the library circulation/substitute payroll account. Misha, want to speak to that?
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation on this?
The Finance Committee supports this article.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. I'm Misha Storm, Burnham Road, and also your library director. So last year, the library requested from Select Board, or from Finance Committee and then Select Board, a total of $12,332 before the cost of living allowance for the fiscal year '25 budget. Both the Finance Committee and Select Board supported that request then. There was a clerical error in their town warrant for the May town meeting, and so you all voted on the wrong number. And so we just need to correct that. So you're voting for $3,688 from already available funds, just to correct that mistake. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Would all those in favor please signify by saying aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Clearly passes unanimously. Article 3, care, custody, and control of a parcel of land located on Swamp Road.
I move that the town transfer the care, custody, and control of a parcel of land located on Swamp Road, being Assessor's Map 64-A1/1, described in the final judgment in the tax lien case dated September 24, 2002, recorded with the Franklin County Registry of Deeds in Book 4109, page 182, from the board or commission having the care, custody, and control thereof from the purpose for which the property is currently held to the Select Board for the purpose of conveyance, and authorize the Select Board to convey said property on such terms and conditions and for such consideration as the Select Board deems appropriate, and to execute such documents, including a deed, to carry out the purpose of this article. Joanne? Oh,
Thank
wait,
you.
second?
Is there a second first? Second. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation on this?
The Finance Committee also supports this article.
Thank you. Yes.
Joanne McGee, 9 Main Street. I'm on the Open Space Committee, and when the town took over a number of properties at an earlier town meeting, we looked at all the properties. Most of them were real small little things. And we noticed this parcel on Great Swamp Road, which was right in the middle of Northfield State Forest. And it seemed to us it would make sense to add this parcel to the state forest. It's on Great Swamp Road, which is a county road. It could be developed, but it's a rough road. And this piece of land, which I think we have it listed as, I forget how many acres, 16 acres more or less, has to be appraised, is part of the biomap in Northfield is part of our critical natural landscape. It's a lovely piece of land that blends in with the other forests in that area. It continues an unfragmented forest that allows wildlife to move through there. And I think you probably all saw the little tiny piece of land that's there. So we've been walking out there with the biologist who talked about the land there in this piece of parcel. It's quite moist. And when you look at it, there's like a lot of what they call kind of mossy humps and then watery places. It's a very wet, moist place with lovely trees, but it also directs water down to the Keyup Brook that's in the area, very important. So it's an important part of our water resources in Northfield. So when we looked at this parcel, we kind of called DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and said, would you be interested in this piece of land? And they said, yes, it would continue our unfragmented forest resources. It would be wonderful. So that's how we started this, put this in motion. And so I hope tonight that you will vote to turn over to the Select Board the authority to convey this land, maybe not to DCR, but still, DCR is voted on their land committee that they would be interested in this parcel. The parcel has had, as you notice in the notes, no taxes paid on it since 1978. And if we sell it to DCR, as an example, at around roughly $1,500 an acre, we will also get the money from DCR, plus we will get additional pilot funds from them for this land. So it just seems to me it's a win-win for all of us. So I appreciate your support. Any questions?
Any further discussion? If you can come on down. Yep. Joanne, if you can just grab a seat while the next speaker speaks, and then. Yes, sir, on my left. Yep, you. Yep.
I'm Michael Waterman, and I bought that piece of property, and this is the first I've heard about it going
If
up
you
for
could just speak a
sale.
little bit closer to the mic. Yep.
This is the first I've heard about this going up for sale, and it abuts my acreage. It's not in the middle of the Northfield State Forest. And I'm questioning why you can just sell it to DCR, because as far as I'm concerned, they own too much land that they do nothing with. Okay?
Thank you. Next speaker? Yes, sir, on my right.
Hi, Jeff Hendricks, 37 Glen Road. Start by thanking the people on the stage and our other civic servants for the excellent work they do. It's much appreciated. Similar to Mr. Waterman, I have concerns about the terms of this motion. I have no doubt that the Select Board would do their best to make a fiscally responsible disposition of the land. And I believe it was Ms. Bond. Certainly agree with her comments. It's a special piece. It's important. I'll point out, though, that the Great Swamp Road on which it's located is not a maintained road to begin with. And I think it would be a really great and unreasonable stretch of the imagination to think that that parcel would be developed into anything other than what it is. And in my eyes, a responsible dispensation with this parcel would be to have a competitive sealed bid to be filed by a time certain, and those bids to be examined for their relative worth. For instance, a privately owned parcel would have a certain tax rate for the land use category in which it's in. And we've heard about the DCR and their pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes. As Mr. Waterman noted, DCR owns quite a bit of property in this town, and I'm tempted to think that if the rate they were paying in lieu of taxes was really appreciable, the town would be in pretty good financial shape, better than it is in. So can I make a motion to this at this time relative to what I just said, is setting a date by which sealed bids could be collected?
So you would need to make a motion that was very specific as to exactly what language you wanted to add and where, and just, you need to write that down on a piece of paper and make sure we had it when you made it. We can take a brief pause if you want to do that, but that's how we would do that. You'd have to.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll take that pen. Thanks.
I promise you we will not end this debate until you have a chance to make that motion. Is there more debate on the current motion as it stands. Yes, on the table here.
Hi, B. Jacques, Main Street. Some of these questions came up at the information session. Thank you very much, because we looked more into it. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things. One is to develop that Swamp Road farther. Highway estimated that that would be around 300 to 600,000. So we want to be careful in looking at what our assumptions are about the value of the land relative to what would need to be done with the road leading up to it. As noted, it's not maintained, and I believe it's close to the Irving line. That said, what we talked about at the information session, I just want to remind people tonight, is the vote is to let the select board move forward. That doesn't necessarily mean we're locked into DCR, but we can't actually entertain any, we're not directed to do anything with the property unless you let us look at the property and take steps on the property. So DCR knows about the property, and they made a preliminary inquiry about it, so we have that information. So I just want to point that out, and also from compelling us to do bidding, that might actually be something the town lawyer needs to weigh in on. And thirdly, I just want to point out that if you give us the authorization to handle this particular piece of property, we also have to vote on it in public at a select board meeting. So there would then be another public opportunity for those who are interested who could weigh in on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate on the item? Yes.
Sarah Kearns.
You can just speak into the, nice and close to the mic, Sarah.
Okay. Yes, sorry, my back. So Sarah Kearns, Highland Avenue. My question is, what's the zoning on that piece? Does anybody know what the zoning on the piece is right now? That's all. Thank you.
Any further debate on the item? You ready with a motion? I want to make sure we don't move on without giving you the chance to make a motion to amend.
Yeah, I've got a motion. That was, thanks for the pen. That was pretty quick work on my part. It could be better fleshed out. I guess I should have known the procedures better. I'll make a motion in 3 parts. Is for the town to collect sealed bids by March 1st, 2025. 2, to evaluate those bids with citizen input by June 1st, 2025. And then the select board, part 3, to make a recommendation for town vote and approval at the next annual town meeting or a select board meeting, as was just mentioned.
And do you want to make this amendment by just adding it to the end of the existing motion?
That would work for me.
And you have a copy of it written down that I can have? Is there a second to the motion? There has been a second. Is there any debate on the motion to amend?
Yeah, can you just raise your hand or second that?
Somebody seconded it, and we just need for the minutes who seconded it. I'll second it. All right. Thank you. Any debate on the item? Yes, we have somebody. So there's a reminder, just debate on the motion to amend.
Yeah, hi, Morgan, Parker Avenue. I am curious to know how making this amendment will, I guess the question is, are we putting the cart before the horse to make this amendment if the town does not have ownership or custody to review this parcel and make decisions about it?
Yes.
The town, just to answer that. The town
Can't
does.
hear you.
Gotta get real close.
Can you hear me? Okay, the town does have ownership. It was taken in a land court judgment because taxes hadn't been paid since 1978, and we own it since 2002. Right now, I don't know if you remember a couple of meetings ago that we had those maps with with the circles, and this is one of those last year. This is one of those parcels, and so we put it. The town voted that we needed to vote to allow the select board to do anything with the property. So not the amendment, but the original one is to give the select board permission to dispose of the property. So does that answer? Okay.
Any further debate on the amendment? Yes.
I think just to clarify, so Sarah's correct. Last year, we voted on a group of parcels, which ideally, had they been handed over to the select board for authorization at that time, we would have put a number of them up for auction already, and we would be in a different spot than we are now. But by virtue of that vote last year, we have to take each property and present it to town meeting and ask for authorization to proceed. So it is a little bit like the cart before the horse. We're taking the vote is really, the original vote, the original motion was to authorize us to move forward. Obviously, DCR is interested. That doesn't constrain what we do. The only concern I have about the amendment is not knowing all the details of bidding. Sometimes bidding has its own deadlines associated with it. So if someone does a motion, however well-intentioned, it might not have the right time frame on it. So I'm just kind of looking over at the lawyer of how does this set us up to actually accomplish what the amendment wants? That would be my only concern. Yeah.
Through you,
Jeff
Mr.
Hendricks.
Moderator.
Jeff Hendricks from Glen Road again, in response to those comments. I thought I heard that it had to be a detailed and specific proposal that I made. That's why I threw the dates in there. Otherwise, I'm more than willing to be open-ended. And I also am interested in acquiring the parcel. And back to what something I already said, is that if the DCR, and there does seem to be a bit of a preconceived notion that the DCR is gonna be the party of choice to get the land. I think that whatever is paid for it, as you look over a span of time, if a private taxpayer pays more real dollars than the DCR coughs up in this pilot payment scheme, then you may not get as much money for the parcel initially, but like any good investment, over time, it will be worth more by virtue of the taxes you've collected. And a point that I didn't make before, but I think it's important, and I think everybody needs to realize that if the DCR makes an offer to buy this land, guess what? They're buying it with your tax dollars. If I buy the land, I'm buying it with new dollars. That's money the taxpayers didn't have before. So the DCR, they're potentially outbidding private citizens with their own money. And I think that's wrong. And if the DCR, they could pay a lot of money for this. And when they show they're running at a loss next year, maybe your taxes will go up again, or your other user fees for any state-owned facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, town council was next.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, members of the Select Board, members of town meeting, thank you for having me here today. I think the question was whether or not the proposed amendments timelines were in sync with the statutory process for disposing of land with respect to the sealed bids. It's my understanding, at least from what I understood from the gentleman, it said up to bids by March, and then there were a couple of other deadlines. I think that that probably falls within the statutory requirements. Obviously, if it doesn't, then the select board can't necessarily do it the way it was wanted, and we would probably end up having to come back here to do something different. But in my opinion, I believe that it probably gives us enough flexibility if this amendment is passed to undertake the necessary process.
Thank you. Yes, next speaker at the microphone.
Perlman, Commonwealth Avenue. I just need some clarification. Will we vote on the amendment separate before we vote on this?
Yes, so we will, when we finish debate on the amendment, and we're currently only debating the amendment, we'll vote on that. And whether that passes or fails, we'll move back into debate on the primary motion. And then and that will either be changed or not, that primary motion. And then after debate on that, we'll vote on that.
Thank you.
On its own, absolutely. Yes, next speaker.
Gary Weiss, Millers Falls Road. I have a concern that if we do sell it privately to a public person, that we may have a problem keeping the road up. And what the overall cost over time is going to be keeping that road up, and will we make enough in taxes to cover that? So if you're going to make that a public road, that's going to be a very big investment.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers? Any other debate just on this amendment? Yes.
Oh. Okay. Hi, Mary Bowen, Burnham Road. I just need some clarity. So on this amendment, I mean, not the amendment, on the article itself. So if this goes to the select board, if we vote to give this to the select board, the decision for DCR to buy it has not been set in stone. This is just for them to have control, and possibly a private person could go before the board and ask to purchase the land as well as DCR. I mean, they could take bids for it.
Purely as a matter of clarity, you all have the motion in front of you, the primary motion, and nowhere in there does it say anything about who might end up buying the property or who the select board is authorized to sell it to.
Joanne McGee, just one more thing. It seems to me that the amendment is unnecessary because if the town meeting gives the select board the power to do something with the land, they can set their own deadlines and their own process as they work through the thing. So they just need the ability to convey this property. They can decide how they want to do that. So that kind of, the motion, the amendment, it just kind of isn't necessary.
Further debate on the amendment. Yes, sir.
Yeah, two things. First, the question of whether the town could maintain the road or not. I don't know if it's a fact that the town would have to maintain the road if someone other than the DCR bought the property. It's not maintained now, and I don't believe it was when the parcel was initially taken. In any case, any contractual writer by a potential purchaser could state that this person would not seek for the town to maintain the road. And then relative to the last point, Ms. McGee, yeah, the motion as made allows the select board to do whatever they want and sell to who they want at their discretion if passed. But the point is the select board does not own the parcel, the town does. That's why I'd like to see the town exercise some control over this activity. Thank you.
Is there further debate on the item? Again, this is just about the motion to amend. Seeing none? All's in favor of amending the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All's opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. The amendment clearly fails. We're now going to move back into debate on the primary motion itself. Is there further debate on the primary motion itself? Seeing none? Would all's in favor please signify by saying aye? Aye. Would all is opposed please signify by saying nay? Nay. This does require a 2/3, so I'm just going to ask for a quick show of hands. We don't need the counters to come out yet, but just so I can get a better sense. All's in favor, please raise your hands. All's opposed, please raise your hands. Clearly passes by 2/3. Article 4, to acquire land.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town authorize the Select Board to acquire, by gift, purchase, eminent domain, or otherwise, a parcel of land containing 3.018 acres, more or less, with the improvements thereon, known as 546 Northfield Road, Route 10, in the town of Bernardston, described in a deed recorded with the Franklin County Registry of Deeds, in Book 6209, page 62, and shown as Lot 2 on a plan entitled Plan of Land in Bernardston, Mass., surveyed for Country Oil, Inc., dated August 15th, 2001, recorded with the registry in Plan Book 114, page 43, for general municipal purposes, including for a public safety facility, and to accept a deed for said property, and further, to transfer the sum of $2,100,000 to fund said acquisition, 0 cents, I should say, to fund said acquisition, the costs and expenses of said acquisition, including inspections and legal costs, and to furnish and equip the building located at the property as follows. From sale of cell tower easement account, the amount of $312,011.80. From emergency services building committee account, the amount of $1,107,509.50. From capital stabilization, the amount of $680,478.70, for a total of $2,100,000, and further, to authorize the Select Board to enter into all agreements and execute on behalf of the town and any and all instruments as may be necessary or convenient to carry out the intent of this article.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation on this?
The Finance Committee supports this article. Over the last 4 years, we've been setting aside money.
Yeah. Pull it up nice and close.
Closer?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm Dan Campbell, Finance Committee Chair. For the last 4 years, the town has supported putting aside money to support articles like this. This would help to take care of 1/3 of the number of, for the emergency service building. The EMS building would be separate by itself, but if you look through more of the information, it will not only be used by EMS, but it's also going to be used by DPW, it will be used by recreation, and if there's more space in there, we will utilize that building to its full potential. If you look at more of what's going on, the building right now is assessed for $2.5 million. So we're purchasing this, possibly, for under the assessed value. This, and again, it will not affect the tax rate because we've already set aside money to do this. So this is a good thing. This is a win-win situation where we can now concentrate on 2/3 of a building or 1/3 of a building rather than the full building. So as far, and this is the discussion we had in the Finance Committee, so we unanimously supported this article. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, there was a speaker on my right.
Yes, good evening. I'm Barry Bordner, 35 Hawley Avenue. As you know, over the years, I'm one of those pesky fiscal conservatives, one of the no-fielders that doesn't want to spend any money on anything. tonight I have a change of heart, I'll tell you. The Oxford Dictionary refers to a unicorn as something that's highly desirable but difficult to find and obtain. Relative to what we need for an EMS building, this is a unicorn. It truly is. And I'm also a member of the Emergency Services Committee, by the way, Building Committee. So I'm kind of speaking for the committee at this point as well. We would buy the building for $2 million. There's $100,000 set aside for us to adapt to the building. One of the comments that I made in one of the meetings was that I would be in favor of it if the EMS people could adapt to the building as best possible and not have us spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars reconfiguring, which is already a beautiful facility. As Dan said, there's no existing impact on our taxes and no debt. One of the things that this would do is it would affect our balance sheet. We would have a $2.25 million property on our balance sheet, which could also help our bond rating as a town. It's something that if for some reason the EMS department went a different way, was taken over by a private entity or another town, this is a town asset. We can always sell it. And we all know that, especially recently, real estate is basically like money in the bank. So it's not like money that's going down an empty hole. We're going to have a recoverable asset if we choose not to use it that way. Going on to, and by the way, it was a unanimous and enthusiastic vote within the committee that I sit on. Going on to the building, it was beautifully constructed in 2012 by a person that I graduated from this school with. He's a tremendous businessman. He built a beautiful building. It's absolute top quality. It's precision cast concrete, all insulated, very energy efficient, and built to true commercial standards. Being built in 2012, it had to comply with all the environmental rules and regulations. It does have its own ample septic system, a drilled well, and a water recovery system, which is very important for filtering and separating water for when they wash the vehicles after having them out in the rain and the snow and so on. And it has a fully installed photovoltaic solar system on the roof that causes the electric bill on that large facility to only be $2,000 a year. So there's a lot of great assets there. The main building is 4,480 square feet. It's 2 stories. It has a front entrance out on Route 142 and an entrance in the back. It is way more than adequate to house our EMS people and personnel. It has a kitchen. It already has multiple bathrooms. It will also have space for an office and some storage for our recreational department. And beyond that, there still is some more room in that building that the town could do something with if they so desired. Now then, there's a north building and a south building. They're both 5,600 square feet. They're constructed of split-level premium concrete foundations and walls with structural steel buildings on top. The north building has 2 large overhead doors, high height, that currently the town of Bernardston stores their fire trucks in until they get their new fire station sometime this summer, I think. And it also has 4 other more standard-sized doors. That building is partially heated currently just to accommodate the fire trucks that Bernardston puts in there. The other building, the south building, is also 5,600 square feet. It has 3 very large-sized doors in it, adequate room for doing maintenance, repairs, so on. If the EMS people wanted to change the oil in their vehicles and so on, they can do it right there. All of these buildings were beautifully built and have been exceptionally maintained. Very, very good value. I would say that if we were to develop that land and attempt to build that caliber of building now, based on my building experience, we could easily spend $3.5 million. This is a tremendous value. I don't want to get off track here. The building does have, like I said, plenty of space, and one of the features that it would have is a large enough room to do training. If we could train, the EMS personnel could train fire personnel, police personnel, and the residents of all the surrounding towns, so that they would be more able to help in a situation where someone was compromised with their health. It would be great if more people in the community actually had first aid training and could help out when it was necessary. There's plenty of room in the building. Well, what they would need to do and what they would need to add, they would need to have some showers added into the building, but the way the building is built as a commercial building, it's going to be relatively easy. It's not going to be a plumber's nightmare to get that done and to accomplish it. They would need a commercial washer and dryer. There's a perfect room with bathroom off it for a bunk room for people sleeping overnight. As we go to a full-time staff serving 4 towns, it would be necessary. So all of these things are going to fit in very well and should be able to be done with that budget of $100,000. The additional thing that we get out of this facility is our highway department does not have a large enough garage to store all their equipment. We know that when you put something out in the weather and it has to stay out in the weather, it just sort of goes biodegradable on you, and it's very hard on the equipment. If Tom Walker could store some of the equipment off-season and get it out of the sun, out of the rain and the wind and the elements, we're going to have that equipment last a lot longer. You know, it's going to be, in the long run, it'll be very beneficial. One of the other things that apparently he can't do, he can't put a snowplow on a truck and then get it into the current town garage. It's too big, and it would be real nice if they could put salt and sand in the truck, put the plow on 10 hours before we know we're going to get a big snowstorm, and somebody could just get in the truck and take off and go. As I did say, the recreation department would get some potential office space and some storage for equipment. I'm not sure if anyone got one of these handouts on that talks a little bit about the expenses, but we're currently paying in the small facility we have on Main Street approximately $5,500 for oil a year. And in the new building, the typical bill for propane for heating what's heated there, which is the main building and the south building, is $5,200. The electricity in the little building is $2,000 a year, and ironically, in this big facility with the solar system on the roof, it's also $2,000. We put in the budget an amount of about $3,000 for maintenance on the building. We will need to keep this building up as time goes because we can't just let it degrade. There's always something that needs to be done. But I can tell you that steel buildings are extremely durable. I own one that's 40 years old, and it's still in beautiful condition. The item that says property, to try to clarify that, we have a triple net lease on the building on Main Street, and the $12,989 that we pay on the property is a combination of the rent and the property taxes on the building, because we don't own the building and we have to reimburse Sandry Corp. For the taxes, or we actually directly pay them, I think. The $10,800 to $10,478 that we would be paying as a pilot to the town of Bernardston. Payment in lieu of taxes is actually the taxable amount on that building. So when you add all of these up, the annual basic expenses for that building are slightly less than we're paying now for the small facility that will only hold 2 ambulances, and we have 3. Just to talk a little further about it, if you look at where the building is on the map, and you look at the area that it's serving, the portion of Irving, Gill, Bernardston, and Northfield, and you put a dot approximately in the middle of that map, that's just about where that building sits. So response times should be improved. For instance, for West Northfield, from my house, they'll go down a little bit. I'm just going to try to stay healthy, I guess, and not need the ambulance. A little bit about where the money comes from EMS. It primarily comes from insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, patients paying for the rides. In addition, each of the 4 towns, Northfield, Bernardston, Irving, and Gill, pay an annual amount, or let's call it dues, or an annual fee of $25,000 each. That regionally is a quite low fee. It's very, very low as compared to some other towns. The other thing that Northfield does and gets involved with, the EMS service pays the town of Northfield $35,000 for administering things like health insurance, benefits, payroll, and just sort of being the bookkeeper for the EMS people. But that does come out of their operating budget. That does not come out of the budget from the town of Northfield. Let's see, page 2. I'd like to turn this over to our new EMS director, Matt Wolkenbright, and welcome him to the town of Northfield. I'd like to have him talk just a little bit about what is happening here and where we're going with regionalization of EMS. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Yes, next speaker. Plenty of time to vote as we go, folks.
All right, folks. Hi, my name is Matt Wolkenbright. I'm your new EMS chief. It's 8 weeks and today. It's been a privilege to be here with you, amazing Northfield EMS staff that have been serving you for a long time. I want to keep this as brief as possible because I think that's what everybody was kind of mumbling in the back. Real quick, our service has grown exponentially as we've regionalized to serve Northfield, Bernardston, Gill, and Irving, and we've been doing that. They've been doing that. I'm now helping to do that with devotion, with integrity, and with as much consistency as we possibly can. We just don't have the space to keep our 3 ambulances in the building. One has to live off-site. We also don't have sleeping quarters for our crews to be in-house at night. And we don't really have enough space even to hold a staff meeting, as we found out the first night I was appointed and we were all standing between the trucks and the bays. So this new building will not only give us adequate space and resources to continue to serve you, it'll allow us to serve you more consistently because we will be in-house more of the time rather than having to respond in from outside. It will also allow us to grow with the 4 communities as we continue to serve them. Our call volume has gone up exponentially. Our requests for service continue to rise. Our amount of staff that are on duty continues to go up every week and month and year as we go. So I'm working very closely with the task force, which consists of select board members from the towns and the other chiefs, to make sure that this service is one that is going to be stable, that is going to continue to provide you service for decades to come, and to do so in this model whereby everybody shares the sort of load to ensure that if somebody has to call 911, we're available. It also will allow us to continue to work with all of our partner fire departments and police departments better. As Barry mentioned, the ability to train with them, to work with them, and to support all of the community members as best as we can will certainly go. So That's kind of my shtick right now. Thank you for your consideration and being here tonight. I'm happy to answer questions if need be, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Further debate on the item? Yes, here at the front.
I wanted to call for a paper vote, please.
There's been a request for a ballot vote when we vote. Is that a motion?
Yes, please.
There's a motion on the floor. Let me just do is there a second for the motion to do a ballot vote? There has been a second. All those in, is there any debate for the motion to do a ballot vote when we vote? Seeing none? All's in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All's opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. I'm going to do the same I did last time and just ask for a really quick show of hands. All's in favor of a ballot vote, please raise your hands real quick. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The motion does not carry. Further debate on the item? Are you coming down, sir? Perfect. Come on down, if you would. Come on down to the mic if you wish to speak. Yep.
This is debate about the building, correct?
Correct. We're in, yes.
The ballot is done.
Ballot's done.
Okay. Paul Gorzakowski, Ashwillet Road, Northfield. And once again, we're back on a chilly evening for a special meeting with a new twist. We are being told to pay $2,100,000 plus for a clubhouse in Bernardston for the EMS, even as we face huge ongoing bills for sewer and important things that absolutely have to be done by Northfield. Now, there's a number of concerns on my part. The EMS is a business, and that's maybe my biggest concern. And it's being backed by Northfield residents, by our tax money, with a no-interest enterprise loan, pretty good business model. And yes, we do get the ambulance service, which isn't cheap. We're paying for that through Medicare, taxes, et cetera, also. But there really doesn't seem to be a lot of benefit to Northfield to pay for a building in Bernardston. And it really seems as though we are repeatedly being misled by a search for an EMS clubhouse. I thought our priorities for emergency services was number one, a fire station for our valuable volunteer fire department. That, I thought, was our number one priority. And number two, the police department. You know, we've already thrown in the fire and squandered over $1 million on this billing endeavor for naught. All we have is a piece of mainly wetlands property that is on Main Street and is no longer on the tax rolls. The Bernardston building, in my humble opinion, is just not a wise move for Northfield. And this came up, at least to my awareness, in the past few months.
I don't believe there's been nearly enough exposition or transparency on this. I mean, there are so many questions. Maintenance costs, there's nothing addressed there. Well, $3,000 a year, come on. It's 3 buildings and it's 3 acres of land. It's a lot different than a little building on Main Street. So that's not a comparable figure. There's insurance costs, there's liability costs. And also, why is Northfield paying for a building in another town? Bernardston, Gill, Irving, they pay a user fee, but they don't seem to be responsible for any share of purchasing, maintenance, responsibility for this property. So I think there's way too many questions that are left unanswered. And it would seem to be abundantly clear that this really doesn't benefit Northfield until those questions are answered. And there are tenuous times ahead. I think this is a misstep. What about the fire station? Thank you.
Hold your applause, folks. There'll be plenty of time to applause when we vote. If you want to speak, just come on down to the mic.
Good
Hello
evening.
there.
On my right first, and then we'll go left. Yep.
Okay. Skip Donnell, your fire chief. I just want to and I'm also the chairman of the Emergency Services Building Committee. I just want to clarify a few things as far as what the committee has been doing. We've been on an emergency services building venture for well over 20 years. We keep trying to come up with solutions. The last solution that we tried for was a public safety complex. The public safety complex was expensive. It was going to house fire, police, and EMS. And due to the figure, it was turned down, okay? And I'm going to speak to you a little bit as the chairman of the Emergency Services Building Committee, and I'm also going to talk to you in regards to the fire department. If we move forward with this prospect, I think there's one couple of things that haven't been mentioned here, and I think you people who are going to foot the bill need to know that. Number one, this is a facility that about a year and a half ago came to light that it would be available. The first thing that was looked at was to see if it could house the fire department. And it doesn't fit the bill for 2 reasons. I want to let you know that. The first reason is because we did a survey on our membership, and we're a call volunteer department. There are no full-time people, okay? We're a call volunteer department, which means when the bell rings, the pager goes off, when the emergency arises, we drop what we're doing, leave work, leave home, whatever, race to the station, get the apparatus, and respond to the emergency. If we were to put our apparatus over the town line in the Bernardston, it does 2 things. It increases our response time to get the apparatus and get to the biggest part of Northfield. It increases that about 6 to 8 minutes, and that's in good weather. Fires don't wait. Timing is utmost, okay? So for us to put the fire department over there, even though the facility is a nice facility, it would increase our response time. And I can speak to you truly, over the last 2 weeks, we had a structure fire on 15 Holly Avenue, threatening to turn into a conflagration going up the ridge. And it was because of the quick response of firefighters and apparatus that we knocked down not only the building fire, but we also knocked down the brush fire that was starting to encroach in some other homes. Had we had to wait 6 more minutes, we'd had a whole different story there. Last weekend, we had a brush fire started by a down power line. And in all honesty, when the first apparatus got on scene from responding from the center of town, they had less than a minute and a half, because I've watched the video, to protect the first house from going up in flames. The deck got damaged. The leaves under the deck caught fire, and it was encroaching in the house. But luckily, we got there in time. The next house up, we ended up placing our engine. We had to knock some fire down before we could get to the house. When we got to the house, we immediately put 2 lines in operation and started knocking down the brush fire, turning around and wetting down the house. Brush fire, wetting the house. Brush fire. We were in structural protection mode. Had it taken us 6 more minutes to get the apparatus there, those 2 homes would have been lost, and there's 2 others that would have been put in jeopardy. So the timing of putting the apparatus with a calls-type fire department across the river increases our response time, which, to me, I live in the north end of town, is unacceptable. So the fire department didn't really look at, and we didn't feel comfortable going before you folks and saying, yeah, we could put our fire trucks over there, because it's a safety issue. The other issue is each community has your fire insurance rating based on your fire department. It's called an ISO, Insurance Services Office, rates every single community as far as what your insurance rates are. They require you to have a fire department. They require you to have a certain pumping capability. They require you to have a certain amount of members. They require those members to have a certain amount of training, okay? They require, in some areas, water supply. They require, if you don't have hydrants, to have fire ponds, which we do have all of that. But they require that fire department be within the confines of the community. If you are going to do a fire service outside of the town, then you would have to form a district, and it gets convoluted and whatnot. So the fire department is still a priority as far as the Emergency Services Building Committee is concerned. This building happened to come up, is viable, and will fit the needs of Northfield EMS. It will also fit some of the needs of Northfield Highway and possibly the Recreation Commission. But the bottom line is Northfield EMS is different than what it used to be. It used to be like the fire department, where they were a call. Now they've gotten to the point where they actually have full-time staff at their facility. So whether the facility is on Main Street in Northfield or it's just on the town line, really doesn't make a difference because they are already there. Unlike the fire department that has to respond to the station to get the apparatus. So I just wanted to clarify that part of it, why the fire department didn't jump on putting our apparatus over there, because it's the ISO rating affects commercial, industrial, residential fire rates, okay? And we get re-rated about every 5 years. So, and you're required to have a fire department in your community. So, I take exception. Paul and I have known each other for years. When we brought
Let's not refer
forth,
to individuals in the meeting. Thank you. Let's not
okay.
refer to other individuals
No.
in the meeting. Thank you.
But the term clubhouse, they need a facility where they can house people, where they can train people, okay, and where they can keep their equipment. The other thing is Northfield EMS, if this goes through, is still a town department. It's still a part of the town's public safety functions: fire, police, and EMS. It is still under the control of the town administrator, the Board of Selectmen, and you folks still control what happens to the ambulance. If it were to go to another vendor, the private sector, now you are going to have to pay the price for whatever somebody wants to come in and do the emergency service, medical service in the community, and you will have no control over those costs. Or in a lot of communities that are losing their EMS, they have no transport ambulance. And we don't want to go there. So what this does, and I'm going to put on my hat from our Emergency Services Committee, is we still have an issue with the fire station. No question about it. We still have an issue with the police department. But if we can take this facility, make it work for EMS, that's 1/3 of the public safety entity in town. We could then, if we need to, do a smaller footprint for just a fire station, and or a smaller footprint for just the police department. The public safety complex was turned down, and we all know because of the price tag. But if we take smaller bites and piece this out, yes, we're not all under one roof, but it physically makes sense. Any questions for the fire service?
Thank you. Any further debate? Please, folks, hold the applause. Yes, on my left.
Hi, Joan Stoya, 94 Main Street, and former customer of the EMS, a grateful customer. I just wanted to mention the point that no one has brought up, and that is that, as Skip points out, the facility is across the river. It is not in downtown. And it just has struck me recently that the people in Northwest North Carolina never expected a hurricane to come through their town and their region and turn their towns to sticks. And they should have, because in 1916, something very similar happened to them, and the towns in that region were severely damaged by a flood. So we in America think it can't happen here. And I just want to point out that it can, and it did. And a few years ago, a few of us wrote a little introduction to Northfield. And we've got a chapter on disasters. In 1925, we had a massive flood, and massive, and it ruined farms, and cows were floating down the roads, and it was apparently horrific. In 1938, which is more comparable to today, 2024, the 1938 hurricane came up the Connecticut River and almost destroyed this town. So if you ever want to look at this little book and see the pictures, it really happened, it can happen again, and my concern is that the EMS will be across the river when it happens, and they won't be able to get to us. And as happens in these situations, many people could perish. So I just wanted to point that out and ask us to think long-term. We love the EMS. We think they're fantastic. I'm really in favor of unicorns. I just wish that it was on this side of the river. Thank you.
Please hold your applause, folks. Next up on my left, and then my right.
Cameron Kennedy, 51 Main Street, also Assistant Chief of the Ambulance. As far as like the building size and it being referred to as a playhouse, we, as EMS has grown, I mean, I've been on the department since 2014 and been practicing since 2010. We are now required to do over at the paramedic level 100 hours of continuing education per year on top of state mandated trainings and everything else. Currently, we're pulling trucks out using a non-heated garage standing over a hole in the floor that has a stop sign on it, filled with some kind of drainage from the previous owners. So not a great environment to be holding those type of classes, but we are learning to do surgery in your living room. We've had select board members over. We are providing the highest level of care that we can in our communities, and we need a place that we can train on those. I wish that there was somewhere that happened to be split between every part of Northfield. Sadly, there isn't, but the trucks are mobile. If we have an emergency, as we've done for fires and everything else, we disperse. We use our mobile offices. If we lost a building for a little bit of time, we would just operate out of the ambulance. But eventually, we're going to come back to it, and we're going to repair the building that we have. We've been in our current station that we're very thankful for. We've always paid our share of usage of it. We rent the building. We are a town entity. My shirt says Northfield. I'm a Northfield paramedic. I'm very proud of that. But we pay to upkeep our own building currently. I don't think that that would change much different in the future. We use our revenue from the calls that we go out and do to pay for those things, and we would continue to do that. The thing that the town is doing is providing us a space where we can continue to grow and return some revenue and also our services to the town. You don't want to lose this. There are towns all around the country that can tell you about losing their ambulance service, especially one that performs as well as the team that I helped lead. So I really ask that the town move forward and go ahead with this building. We could really use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, folks, hold the applause. Yes, next up.
John Hall, Chief of Police. I just want to quickly, I don't want to reiterate everything, but thank you, Barry and Skip. Also, Matt, thank you. The PD fully supports this building because it's a regional ambulance service, and going into Bernardston and where it is just over the border. It makes sense. I hear the radio calls every day. Just today, they went and helped out Turner's Falls. So it's bigger than just our community. Our regional ambulance services all around. They're a little bit closer to 91. You might have family members or loved ones or friends that are in other communities. It's a little closer to get there. So, like for example, today is just one of many examples I hear constantly on the radio. But if there's an accident or a number of medical issues, they have to go down the line of ambulances that are available. And often I hear Northfield EMS going there and helping out people that are in critical situations. And so that's a great reason why the PD supports this, because they're regional, and just putting any rumor mills in there, because I get asked about the police department. Trust me, put us on the back burner. We have a lot of our own projects going on. We have records and evidence and all kinds of internal things that we've been chipping away at for the last 3 years that I've been there. So we have a lot to work on before we're ready for our part of it. But for now, I'd appreciate it, and I look forward to the vote tonight so that we can have one out of the 3 projects in our future taken care of. Thank you.
Please hold the applause, folks. Any further debate?
Chelsea DePaul, Riverview Drive, and this might be a really silly question.
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
You make it sound so easy. All right, here we go. Thank you. Okay, Chelsea DePaul, Riverview Drive in Northfield. This might be a really silly question, but if the ambulance service goes private, what does that mean for this building, for the town? Does the town just sell it? That's a lot of money to be paying for a building that, I have no idea, but say 5 years from now it goes private, then what?
Thank you. Further debate? Yes.
So as a select board member, I've been focused on public safety for the last 4 years, and all the various proposals that have come before the town meeting. I think everybody on the building committee can appreciate, and you can all appreciate how much time and energy has gone into that. Ideally, we would have had one building with all 3 departments, and that was not to be. So we're going after the 3 individual departments, and I'll get to the question about EMS. EMS is actually the easiest, out of the 3, is the easiest to move. There's people and ambulances. The ambulances need to be in a heated garage, which is one of the strong features of this purchase. Right now, if you go down to the old building, it's uninsulated, that's why it costs a lot to heat, and the door has to be left open between the little office where the staff on call are, and they need to leave the door open to the garage to keep the ambulances heated because of medication and equipment needs to be above freezing. Fire actually is a huge priority for the building committee. Taking it separate, though, it has more building code and coverage and response time factors to consider, as Skip totally laid out. But I wanted to point that out as well, because fire, for example, just to do showers for fire, it's a hazmat shower. To do showers for EMS folks, it's a regular shower. So the accommodations that Barry mentioned at the beginning of the EMS department to the building are minimal. But that means we need more time on fire to do a separate proposal for fire, right? It's not that it isn't a priority, it just happens to be a bigger project and has more factors that need to be considered before we bring you a proposal. So the challenge of doing 3 separate proposals means they're going to come at different times, unfortunately. As part of the building committee, as a select board representative, and also on the EMS task force, these are still all priorities. They are just being worked at different times because the solution to put all 3 in one building, which solved all those problems, now we have to look at all of those problems individually. That's why these are coming up at different points. As far as EMS is concerned, what I've learned over the years, and many of you who have been in medical situations or are in the medical field, healthcare has changed dramatically over the last few years. And companies that do private EMS aren't interested in doing this kind of work, 911 calls involving Medicare. You cannot be a for-profit company and make money doing Medicare calls. So the likelihood of this public town department going private is slim to none. If you are familiar with AMR in Greenfield, most of their work is for folks when they get out of the hospital, you know, like my dad when he was in the hospital and he was going home, they do transport, which is putting the patient in an ambulance. The likelihood of them having a major medical issue while they're in the ambulance is really low. That's why they do it, and also because they can charge a lot of money to the insurance for doing that. So the options, and somebody else had asked this too, like what if we went with another service? There are very few other services, especially in rural places in the country. What Northfield is doing is actually a leader in the Commonwealth. We have other parts of Western Mass who are really interested in this relationship that has grown up from these 4 towns. And the 4 towns all have skin in the game. They all have people who either live in each of these towns or work in each of these towns, and they are all on the EMS roster. So when Cam and Becca are sitting in the audience, they're Northfield residents. But we have somebody who's a Gill resident who works from Gill Fire, Bernardston Fire, Irving Fire, are all appointed to work on EMS. So they all have skin in the game. I just want to point that out. And the other portion of having skin in the game means the select board members and the chiefs were meeting over a 2-year period. We're midway through that 2-year period. In the spring, we will come back with an info session on regionalization. The fact of the matter is, we're already regionalized in a very organic, and to use an overused phrase, collaborative fashion. It already works, and people are really committed to it. What the other select board members said of the task force is they do not want Northfield to become anything different than what it is. They like the simple department. Northfield is the anchor. They like that because it's the simplest method to do ambulance work. I could go into all kinds of details that you don't want to hear, but we all voted for a very simple arrangement, which is to continue doing what we're doing. And all of the towns are ready to look and vote on an assessment model which will up the quote-unquote annual fee for each of the towns. Now keep in mind, because of the way this service currently works, most of the money that comes into the EMS account is from all of those ambulance calls, not just in Northfield. If it was only Northfield, then you would be paying you would actually be paying more as a town. Right now we actually make money, right? This year we're making money. We're making $10,000 on EMS, which is unheard of. So I just want to point some of those facts out that this is, I'm not seeing EMS turn private. I'm not seeing anybody drop out of the service. What I am seeing is we still have a lot of work to do, and that's why we put a task force together, and then we'll do an information session more about the finances in the spring. But the first part of this puzzle that Skip had pointed out was to take care of EMS and other departments in a town building. Granted, it's in Bernardston. It's 220 feet from the town line. It's at that very intersection of Route 5 and 10 where Gill, Northfield, and Bernardston town lines all come together. And it's not that far from PVRS, and it's 2 miles from Caldwell Road. And one thing I've noticed in the past year or two is there's a ton of accidents, or what seems like a ton of accidents on Route 10. So they can basically roll right out and take care of some of those sun-blinding accidents on Route 10. But I appreciate the time, and I just wanted to point out some of those facts that have taken many years to actually absorb and to be able to tell you what those are. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Further discussion? I'm just pausing to see if this individual is... I don't see any more debate. I would prefer not to vote on moving the question. If we just... I haven't heard a second to that. We can just go to voting if there's no second to move the question. I'm not seeing any further debate. We're now going to move into voting. We are going to do a counted hand vote for this one. I anticipate it does require a 2/3. So I suspect we're going to be reasonably close. Does somebody just want to let the poll workers know that we're going to need them for some counting? I don't want to make you put your hands up until we have them here. Are they? All right, here we go. All right, we're going to do a hand count. Are we ready, poll workers? All right. Are there poll workers trying to get in over there? Just make sure cool. All right, if folks are standing out there, if you want to vote, make sure you're in the room. So if you don't care about voting, feel free to stand in the doorway, stand out there. If you do want to vote, make sure you're actually in the room, and we'll make sure you get your hands counted. All those in favor, please raise your hand, the one with the band on it, and please keep them raised until one of the poll workers tells you that they've counted that area and you can put your hand down. All right, if you're in the middle, keep your hands up. We're still counting in the middle. And on my left, we're still counting. Is my left side fully counted yet? All right, my left side, you can put your hand down. Is the middle counted? All right, middle can put your hands down. And we got the stage fully, right?
Did you get left side stage? Did you right side stage? Okay, we're good.
No, Tori just. Nope.
Nope, she did my right side of the stage. On the left side of the stage, please, hands up if you're voting yes. All right, hands down. All opposed, please raise your hands. You always surprise me, and I love it. Thank you. Keep your hands up until, is my far right side done counting? Middle is still counting. Left is still counting. All right. Middle can put your hand down. Left side can put your hand down. All right. We're all counted. Just give me 1 second.
The next one just is the same as the others.
One glasses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th up. Gray hair, short hair, with the glasses. She just moved her head in order for me to know. Go ahead, go ahead.
As a reminder, this required a 2/3 vote. The votes were 138 in favor, 62 opposed. It clearly passes. And thank you for the patience on the hand count. That was actually reasonably close, so I appreciate everybody's patience. Moving on to Article 5. Article 5. Is somebody making a motion relative to Article 5?
Sorry about that. We were trying to help the town clerk. Article 5. I move the town vote, oh, it's a short one. Yay! I move the town vote to approve Article 5 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There's a second. Does the Finance Committee here have a recommendation? Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Finance Committee approves this recommendation.
Well, that
They
might be
took no
close.
action. They took no action because it's not financial.
This is true.
Okay.
Sorry, I go to the Finance Committee meetings.
All right,
too.
sorry about that. Debate on the item. Yes.
I just wanted to point out, as on the fact sheet, why Article 5, when a property is in Bernardston or another town, Any town in Massachusetts must ask permission to purchase property in another town. It's called a legislative petition. So Senator Comerford and Representative Whips are already aware and supportive of this and are ready to take this into the legislative session starting in January. Next steps are listed on there as well, so the petition is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further debate? Seeing none? This only requires a majority, so seeing none, all's in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All's opposed, please signify by saying nay. Clearly passes unanimously. Article 6, a citizen petition. Is there a motion under Article 6? If not, is there a motion to pass over Article 6?
I, Bernhard Parada, 67 South Mountain Road, make a motion to pass this article or table it.
There's been a motion to table, to pass over this article. Is there a second? Thank you. There's a second. We now enter debate on the item. Would anybody like to debate passing over this? Passing over it means we're going to take no action on the article here at the meeting, either in favor or opposed. Is there any debate on this item? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Brian Bordner, Ashwillet Road. I propose this article. The great thing about democracy is, from time to time, if we don't like the way our government is, we can change it. To pass over on this article would be to ignore a petition signed by 130 of your fellow residents. So I propose that we do not pass over this article, that we actually get to debate it and vote on it. Thank you.
Any further debate? Please hold your applause. Yes. Select Board.
I propose that we get the town council to give an opinion on the effect of this petition.
Thank you. Yes, Town Council.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, thank you, and everybody here. As you know, I'm Jeff Blake, your town council, and I don't know how much you know about the behind-the-scenes workings of a town meeting. Typically, the town meeting warrant is drafted under the supervision of the select board, and it's sent over to me. I typically do revisions. You know, they ask me to write. For example, some of the real estate articles here were written by my firm. However, when it comes time for a petitioned article, I don't touch it. I can't touch it by law. It goes on exactly as it is. But I am often asked to review the article and determine what effect it could have on a positive or a negative vote. And I've done that here as well. And what I've determined is that there's a distinction between the executive, select board, and the legislative, town meeting. Each one of you has your lane. If the select board has certain statutory duties and obligations and rights, it can't be usurped by the town meeting. And I have made the opinion, it's my opinion, that in this case, what this article is attempting to do is usurp the authority of the select board to hire and fire a town administrator. Specifically, for those of you that want to know, I'm looking at Chapter 41, Section 108N, which authorizes the select board to, notwithstanding the provisions of any general special law to the contrary, to establish an employment contract with a town administrator. Obviously, the power to establish a contract necessarily includes the power to hire and fire. Section 108N goes on to say, notwithstanding any law to the contrary, allows the select board to hire and enter into and to legislate, enter into a contract with the town administrator on its own volition. Therefore, in my opinion, this is one of those instances where the select board has the authority to do it by statute, and this body, the legislative body, can't usurp that authority. So in my opinion, this would be what we call a directory and not mandatory vote. It would be a sense of the meeting. It would be a guide, if you will. The meeting here tonight could vote overwhelmingly in favor of this, but it does not bind the select board to take it and get essentially eliminate the town administrator position. I also note that I understand that the town administrator position recently has entered into a contract. Obviously, that's a valid and binding contract, and in order for a town to break that, there would be certain penalties for a breach of contract. So it's a very long-winded way of me saying that this would just be a sense of the meeting type of vote tonight.
Thank you. Is there further debate on this item? And again, the motion is to pass over this item and to take no actual action on the article. Yes, yep. Come on down to the front. Just so folks know, if you don't see me, it's a little dark on the way back, so if you have your hand up, I may not see it, so feel free to just come down.
I
or
appreciate
be
town
vocal.
council's opinion, and that's what it is, it's an opinion. Since I drafted this, I sent a letter to the Assistant Attorney General of Municipal Law asking that decision body as to the effectiveness and the enforcement of what this article would be. They have not yet got back to me. Just to remind the body here, the townspeople, the select board originally voted not to renew the contract. When I proposed this article, they went ahead on their own and gave the town administrator a long-term contract, knowing that they didn't have to do it until June of next year. So basically, they disrespected your opportunity to, as I said, if you are dissatisfied with the way town government is, you have the option to change it. So if the select board was truly interested in what the voters had to say, they would not have offered that contract. They would have given us a chance to stand up here and debate it. And they would have given us a chance to vote. And then if we succeed, then the Assistant Attorney General of Municipal Law decides if it's an enforceable item. Thank you.
Any further debate? Yes, on my right. And as a reminder, we're not debating the core article itself. We're debating whether or not we're going to pass over this or not.
Tracy Rogers, Millers Falls Road. Town meeting, the way we enforce and we share what we want to happen is to elect the select board, and then we put our faith in them to debate the information. They have more details than we do. If they decided at the last minute to grant her a contract, I have to believe that they had discussions amongst themselves and decided that was the best way to do it. If you're unhappy with what they chose to do, vote them out. Don't vote the town administrator out.
Folks, please hold the applause. Yes, on my left.
Steve Stoya, 94 Main Street, Northfield. I want to talk about disrespect and how that impacts how people operate in town. We just celebrated the town's 350th, and all the people involved in organizing that, planning that, and making it happen were volunteers, not paid people, volunteers. If you look at that stage here, there are 4 selectmen. There's one missing, but those selectmen are supposed to be numbered 5. And that came about as a result of a committee called the Governance Committee. It is a citizen-run committee. It lasted for about a year. It was chaired by Barry over there, and we...
Reminder, let's not refer to folks individually.
Oh, sorry about that. And we traveled all around the area, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, to interview towns about their means of government. And what we found was that many towns voted to have 5 select people instead of 3. Remember, we used to have 3. We also interviewed them about having a town administrator that has extra powers, if you will, an empowered town administrator, and a number of them were glad to have gone to a situation like that. They all had their reasons. What we learned was that governing a town like ours is becoming more and more sophisticated. It requires more and more skills on the part of select board members and town administrators. Let's see. The other committees that are run by citizens of the town would be the Friends of the Library, the Friends of the Shell Bridge, the Friends of the Senior Center. There are many, many, many of them. Why am I doing this? Why am I keeping you up? The reason why is that last night, the select board gave a green light to a woman who has been working for the town for maybe 5 or 6 months or whatever, to kind of set up her own bureaucracy. She was given the permission to get student interns from UMass, get interns from UMass and have them come in and work with her and help offload some of the stuff she's doing. Now, this person was hired by the town administrator to, in fact, offload her load of grants and whatever. Something's wrong here, okay? What they did last night was very little money, but they opened the door to do more of this kind of thing, okay? The lack of respect for citizens doing stuff was clearly demonstrated with the eradication of the Economic Development Committee in the town. Duly constituted by the Select Board, this Economic Development Committee operated for several months, and then we were brought in and harangued and accused of stuff, and nobody knows what happened after that. Nobody can find out, because they never told us why they stopped the committee. This is too much power. I'm a citizen. I'm a taxpayer. I have a right to know what's going on, and I have a right to be critical. Thank you.
I don't want to waste anybody's time because it's getting late. I just would like to point out that this article was brought by citizens. I'm not one of the people, I didn't see this petition, so I'm not one of the people who signed this petition. But a sufficient number of citizens asked for this petition to be brought forward. I think we should respect the request, a sufficient and official request, and not dismiss what others have asked us to bring forward and discuss, debate, and act upon. It's also a dangerous precedent to ignore citizen movements in a small town like this, because 100-plus people is a significant population in a tiny little town like this. So just out of respect for democracy, I feel that we should not pass over things that are proposed. Thank you.
Please hold your applause, folks. Is there further debate on passing over this item?
Bruce said he's got insurance if this hits me. Democracy takes a lot of work. Here we are, and 130 citizens asked to be acknowledged for their concerns about the operations of the town, about the fact that the budget keeps getting expanded due to additional people brought in to do what was covered in an original contract. It feels to me incredibly disrespectful for the people that have been involved in town meetings for hundreds of years in America to just dismiss the concerns and wills of citizens who took the time to sign a petition. So even if the petition is destined to fail, I suggest we owe it to people like my dad, who at 17 years old had his mother sign off so he could go fight in World War II for democracy. I respectfully request we don't dismiss this, that we take a vote. And I also request, should that happen, there'd be a paper ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Please hold your applause, folks. We can't have a motion to fix the method of voting if we do go into a vote on a different item. So for now, we're still debating whether or not to take no action on this item. Yes, am I right?
Hi again. I have a question in a very small soapbox.
Name and street, if you could, real quick.
I'm sorry?
Name and street, if you could.
Oh, Morgan. I live on Parker Ave. I guess the question that I have is anyone allowed to make the motion to begin the conversation? As I noticed that everyone is allowed to second the motion to, begin the debate. And I guess if we are in a room with folks who signed this petition and none of them read the petition to begin the debate, to get it seconded, to begin the debate about it, I think that the conversation is a moot point because it wasn't important enough to read the motion to even start it. So I would say we should pass on it because we've already moved past, nobody wants to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on passing over Article 6? Seeing none? No. Thank you.
Joseph Rappa, Parker Avenue. I'm one of the signatories on that petition, and I know of dozens of others. And our actions were taken in good faith, not because of our ignorance. We fully understood what was involved, and we were looking forward to having the select board take our grievances seriously. I've lived in many towns in Massachusetts. I've been a resident of this town for the last 8 years. And I've been in towns where they have removed a town administrator. And actually, it was in the eastern part of the state. This is a small town. Even if it has, big issues or well, looking at my tax bill, certainly they have enough issues. But I think that out of regard for the other signatories, we should take up this motion, and we should really seriously think about whether this town needs a full-time town administrator with also supporting staff.
Thank you. On my left.
Good evening, everybody. Joanne Flagg, Parker Avenue. I thought I'd make it a trio. As a teacher, I often would ask students if, democracies are great, but I think a big question that democracy needs to consider is how do we take care of the minority? So 130 signatures is definitely a minority in our town, but I think we help take care of everybody in our town by considering and debating their ideas too, and not just pass them over.
Thank you. Further debate on the item.
Joan Stoya, 94 Main Street. I'd like to ask if it would be appropriate to place an amendment on the original article or place it on this current motion to pass. What would be the best place?
So I don't know functionally how we would place an amendment on a motion to pass over something.
Okay.
If the motion to pass over fails, then it would be open to somebody to make a motion on Article 6 to
Can I
advance Article 6.
describe what that might look like? Before I
think we need to stay focused on whether or not we should pass over Article 6 or not.
Okay.
If the meeting decides not to pass over, we'll have lots of opportunity to address Article 6 directly.
Okay, I hope we do. Thank you.
Further debate on passing over Article 6. Yes.
I move the question.
Moving the question requires a 2/3 vote. We're going to do a quick voice vote, and hopefully that we can...
We don't know what that means.
Sure. Moving the question means we're going to stop debate, and we're just going to vote. It's a vote to take a vote.
Oh, okay.
Is there a second to moving the question? All right, so this is, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to oversimplify this, but we're going to take a vote on whether or not we're going to take a vote to pass over Article 6. The vote we're going to take right now is only about ending debate right here and taking a vote on whether or not to pass over Article 6. All's in favor of stopping debate and just taking a vote, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All's opposed, please signify by saying nay. Clearly passes by 2/3 required. All right, we're now moving directly into a vote on whether or not to pass over Article 6. This only requires a simple majority, but I'm going to do a quick hand vote. We don't necessarily need the counters unless I can't read the hand vote. All's in favor of passing over Article 6, which means we're not taking any action on it at all. Please raise your hands high for me. All those opposed to passing over Article 6, please raise your hands high for me. Passing over clearly fails. We have now taken no action, actually, on Article 6. Does somebody want to make a motion on Article 6? We need a motion that's a little more defined than so moved. Come on down if you could to the microphone.
Do you want to have a conversation first?
No, I want to do an amendment.
We can't have any debate right now. We're standing waiting for a motion relative to Article 6.
All right, Joe Gravel, and I make the motion that we vote on Article 6.
How about a motion to move Article 6 as printed in the warrant? Is that? I haven't heard a second to the first motion that was made yet. I'm not sure I have clear enough definition as to what that actually means. So I'm going to rule out of order what I heard. A very simple motion that would be in order would be to move Article 6 as printed in the warrant. If somebody wants to make that motion, that is also simple and would allow us to proceed.
I move that Article 6 is printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Thank you.
As sponsor of this article, I'd request that a member of the Select Board actually read the article like they did all the other articles to the townspeople, please.
Just as a matter of order, articles were not read to the townspeople. People made motions to
Okay.
advance certain articles,
All
which
right.
you've done relative to this one.
Okay. So now may I speak about the article?
Absolutely. We've entered debate on the item.
Great. Bear with me here a minute. Brian Bordner, Ash Willett Road. Once again, I'd like to thank the 130 citizens who joined with me on proposing this article. I actually call it a failure of legitimacy. So I'm going to read you what I prepared and maybe a little explanation at the end. I am sure you're asking yourselves, why did I propose this article? Some may consider it extreme, others may consider it long overdue. My motivation is that I love this town and I want it to succeed. I want it to be successful. The vote is not removing load-bearing walls. It's actually to start a new beginning, to start a solid foundation that the town can build off of. You know, a few years past, some talented members of the town proposed a town governance plan. My brother who spoke earlier was actually the chairman of it, and they did a great job. And there was a reasonable layout to control the town, it was enacted, and we were all looking for positive leadership. We all admire positive leadership. There was only one problem. Its success was determined by the people who took up elected office and the individuals who were appointed to key positions. We elected the wrong people. We appointed the wrong people. A plan is only as good as the people who enact it. Since that time, our elected board is actually, as voters, has failed us. Over the past years, the board members have offloaded their responsibilities of the town office to the town administrator, not just the running of the day-to-day operations of the town, but significant purchasing, contract, and hiring duties. Okay? We now have select board meetings and actually town board, select board meetings where the decorum protocols and the dignities have been abandoned. Appointed employees openly in public meetings air personal grievances against elected select board members they don't agree with. This disrespects the citizens' right of representation. The town hall created a code of civil conduct that was enacted to protect the employees of the town hall from inappropriate behavior from citizens who disagree with them. They have determined that their own code of conduct does not pertain to themselves. The corrosive mode of the town governance cannot continue. I've heard of select board meetings when one select board member is definitely stepping over the bounds, criticizing another select board member. We never wanted this. Many of you here tonight came to vote to change our town government, starting with the town administrator's position. Many of you feel disrespected for many reasons. If it wasn't a vote that was proposed, it was an enactment when they went to get help at the town hall, or the way they were treated. Here is your opportunity to send a clear message to the select board. They have to start listening to us, and they have to start thinking about the welfare of the people who elected them. So I ask you to vote yes. Thank you.
Further debate on the item? Yes.
Susan Wright, 67 South Mountain Road. I started in municipal government in the 80s. I have worked for 5 towns in Franklin County. I was originally a circuit rider for Shelburne, Buckland, Coleraine, and Heath, and I've been a town administrator in Whately. And I've worked as a shared administrative assistant in Shelburne, Coleraine, Buckland, and Heath in the 80s. Northfield was part of the original circuit rider program where we tried to get professional management into small towns. I'm going to read a statement that I put in the recorder, and I'm going to read parts of that to you tonight, and I urge you to vote against this article. The petition article has no details other than to ask the select board to reassign the responsibilities of the position at a maximum annual salary of $75,000. Replacing the town administrator position with a lower level, such as an administrative assistant, might seem like a cost-saving measure at first, but it undoes and ignores the thoughtful work done by Northfield's 2 town government study committees in 2013 and 2018. Both committees, with several representatives of the community and other boards, each spent a year doing research, talking with other towns, and holding public information sessions before making recommendations to townspeople at annual town meeting. Northfield voters should carefully consider the ramifications of eliminating this essential position and asking the select board to reassign duties to an assistant. As described in the 2014 Town Government Study Committee report, members of the select board are elected by popular vote, and it does not necessarily mean that an elected official has the knowledge to keep a town in compliance, nor the necessary professional skills to manage a town. Since the mid-1980s, towns across Massachusetts have hired professional municipal management to support volunteer select boards. Today, 23 out of 25 towns in Franklin County employ a chief administrator with titles ranging from town administrator, 15 towns, to town coordinator, 5 towns. Only our 2 smallest county towns, Monroe and Hawley, with populations of 118 and 353 people, have part-time administrative assistants. Eliminating the town administrator position would be a dramatic step backward for our town and puts us in stark contrast with our neighbors. When the salary and value of the town administrative position was reduced in other communities in the state, it became very difficult to attract qualified applications for many years. This shortage persists, and the competition is driving other communities to offer town administrator salaries even higher than Northfield. In the Pioneer Valley alone, there have been 7 vacancies in 8 months. Keep in mind the trend exists for other municipal positions, not just town administrators. So it's concerning the way that this petition is trying to change a key town position by vote without details or process. We are worried that this creates a ripple effect by sending a negative message to current town employees and future applicants for jobs with our town. It's also very unreasonable to expect the select board, who earn about $2,000 a year, to take on the day-to-day responsibilities of running a town. They have their own careers and personal commitments. No elected board, no matter how dedicated, can manage all the administrative and legal duties that are required, nor do they have the skills or experience. And who of you, if you vote against this, want to serve on the select board if your workload and legal risks increase significantly? The proponents of this proposal have failed to demonstrate how eliminating this town administrative position would benefit Northfield. Some argue that the town administrator has too much power or is responsible for raising taxes. or is the sole decision maker behind major projects such as the public safety building proposal. Decisions regarding the public safety building were made by the Emergency Services Building Committee, the Select Board, and then voted at town meeting. Town administrator is not at fault for how the Public Safety Committee, Building Committee went down. Additionally, it's the responsibility of the Finance Committee, who's appointed by the town moderator to review finance proposals and to be the fiscal watchdog throughout the year. They review departmental budgets and they make recommendations on financial articles that come before town meeting. Similarly, the town administrator does not determine the tax rate. The tax rate is a product of your values and the amount of money that is passed at town meeting by you, the voters. Abolishing the town administrator position is a mistake. As Northfield faces new challenges, we need professional, qualified leadership, not a gutting of the very position and expertise recommended to guide our community. So I urge you to vote this article down.
Thank you. Hold your applause, folks. Am I right?
Good evening. I'm Ted Thornton, Highland Avenue. I'm going to vote against Article 6, but I have a question that may actually benefit the signatories of Article 6. And that question is, does an article that ends with a question mark have legal standing as an article in a town meeting?
I'm not sure the punctuation is going to have a lot of bearing.
Well, it's somebody could come back at a later day and say that this debate was conducted illegally. So why can't the signatories put their article in the form of a statement, a declaration?
Further debate on the item. Yes.
So we heard a very impassioned statement from the horse's mouth about why we should abolish the position of town administrator. And I wrote down one phrase, that we elected the wrong people. The rationale for this article seemed to be based on we elected the wrong people. Every year we get the chance to change the select board, not all 4 members, but every year we elect a new member to the select board, or we re-elect the member that's on then. Eliminating the position of town administrator because you're upset with the select board sounds like being angry at your wife and kicking your dog. So I would suggest if there is anger at the select board, then we kick the select board, but leave the dog alone.
Hold the applause, folks. Yes, next speaker on my left.
Steve Stoyer, 94 Main Street. I'm here to kick the select board. The question that I have, has a town administrator gone through a comprehensive evaluation? And I think the answer is no. I think they don't know how to do it, and they're afraid to do it. A lot of people didn't sign that petition. Some people did sign that, but the woman who spoke very eloquently said, "Where are the details?" Everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid to put details. If you have contact with the lady, you know why.
Let's not refer to specific individuals here in the meeting. This is about a position and not an individual.
Yeah, okay. The details are concerned because we don't want to get into being sued or anything like that. There are heads of departments that would burn the select board's ears if they did a proper evaluation. It hasn't been done.
Further debate on my right.
John Hall, Pine Meadow Road, Chief of Northfield. I got to choose my words wisely. This is not a good political position. But I got some drama to share with you, which is, no, actually I don't. So I got to say that Northfield Police Department, as you know, we're in Town Hall, and everyone has some great points here, and I understand both sides of everyone speaking up, but internally there is no drama to share from Town Hall. We have a very good team, and we all work well together. That's why you don't hear of a lot of drama going on within the actual department. So that's a lot of us. I can't speak for fire EMS, but within the building, we have, what do we have, 20 people working out of the building. We all work together very well, and we have a strong leader, Andrea, and I've had a good experience myself. But that being said, I'm not dismissing any other points. I'm just saying from internally, maybe you don't think I'm unbiased on this, but I'm trying to be neutral, is that sometimes there's personality conflicts, and a person in a position such as this, there's a number of things that people might perceive as something that they don't like. But from working with people all the time, coming from different departments, I've had a great experience at Northfield, and I appreciate it. And this has been one of the parts or variables of it, and I don't think it needs to be changed. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
Bob Henry, 137 Watermaker Road. I've kind of gotten tuned with this argument about, the administrative assistant, and I just like to say a couple things. A couple will probably be rhetorical, but we all have different personalities. I rub some of you the wrong way. Some of you probably rub me the wrong way. So we just are our own unique personalities. But we always work towards a common goal, I'd like to think. So with our town administrator, I'll just say this. I've not liked some of our conversations, but the bottom line is I've never been given any false or inaccurate or disrespectful conversations. So I got nothing bad to say. As far as the petition goes, I've talked to 3 or 4 of the petitioners, so to speak, and I said, all right, give me your top 3. What are your top 3 objective complaints? No one gave me. We'll get them to you. We'll see you. I see them around town. I still got 0. I heard the argument today. I didn't hear any specifics. I didn't say this was false. I was given this, and this was against regulation. I didn't hear one objective item that we can lock on to. The other thing is as we all parents in the room, you get called to school to see the principal and the teacher. What did my kid do? Did he color on the floor with crayons? Did he stick someone in the eye with a fork? Come on, tell me, what did he do? If he colored on the floor with a crayon, you're wasting my time. If he stuck somebody in the eye with a fork, you got my interest. So the bottom line is, from our town administrator, I've got nothing but accurate and professional responses. And no, I didn't like them all. And no, I didn't like all our conversations. But out of respect, my experience has been 100% done her job. You got different experiences, say it up here, have a concrete response, have an objective, have it measurable, and let's get on with the vote. Get it done. Get her done. Thank you.
Hold the applause, folks. On my right.
Patterfield, Highland Avenue. I have trouble getting to Wednesday night meetings because I have another commitment, but I've chosen to be here because I'm dismayed by this article, and I intend to vote against it. I think it has been put forward by people who do not have a good understanding of how our town government works. And now, having heard what our lawyer has to say, I think it may pretty much be moot anyway and be taken only as a recommendation to the select board. And I think the select board has already heard that recommendation loud and clear from us or from the people who signed the petition. I do not have a personal relationship with the current town administrator, but I believe she's doing an excellent job. She understands the laws and regulations, advises our boards and committees, and keeps our town out of trouble. I could relate several times she has given me needed information to move ahead on projects of service to the town. And I'd like to remind you all, in terms of the 350th anniversary celebrations, that without her stepping in to pull it together, our parade would not have happened. As Ruth Potee said in a recent post on Nextdoor, quote, 2 town committees made up of hardworking citizens of our town made a strong recommendation to move the select board to 5 members and to have a town administrator. Why would we go against a thoughtful, well-researched, and reasoned decision which we as a town voted on in a single rash move. If people don't think the current town administrator is doing her job well, or if you have a personal grudge against her, then tell her or tell the select board, who are responsible for hiring and evaluating her. If you don't think the select board is doing their job well, run for select board.
Please hold the applause, folks. On my left.
Misha Storm, Burnham Road, and also a department head for the library. I just want to, as an information professional, I want to stop misinformation. So department heads are not against our town administrator. This one is not.
Please hold the applause, folks. Yes, on my left.
Lynn Hansel, 28 Old Elm Way. I'd like to point out an analogy. I was a public school teacher for 26 years, and I could not possibly please all the people all the time. I had an administrator who evaluated me 3 times a year, most years, and my evaluations went into a private personnel file. If parents or other people had an issue with how I was running the classroom or communicating with other people in the community, they would go to my administrator. And my administrator could choose to address it with me if he or she chose to do that. This held true in 5 different school districts that I worked in. And I will tell you, there are times I did not please everyone all the time. And there were times administrators spoke with me, and we either worked it out together with the concerned party, or the administrator worked it out with the concerned party. We have a process. We have a select board. The select board is the body in our town who evaluates the town administrator's performance. Those evaluations are private. They are not public. But if it seems to me we have 2 factions in this town, one who's concerned about taxes and expenses and have an axe to grind about what we're paying a town administrator, and my answer to that is, if you were paid $2,000 a year to teach a bunch of elementary school children, you would not do that. It requires expertise and professionalism and knowledge that people who are elected may or may not have. My other point, I've forgotten because I get adrenaline in my brain, and if I remember it, maybe I'll post it on Nextdoor. But I think I've made my point. Oh, if you have a concern about any person who is in a position to run the governance of our town, please address it privately to a person on the select board. Oh, that was the other faction in the town, people who have a personal axe to grind. Go to the person you know on the select board and have a private conversation with them about what it is you don't like. And thank you, Patter, because I don't think I could have said it any better. If you don't like the way the select board is running the town, run for select board.
Folks, but before you go to the next speaker, there's a reason I asked that folks not applaud, and I'm just going to ask you a favor that we not do that. A, it slows us down, but it also stifles debate. The whole point of being here is to have folks come to the front and share their opinions so we can hear what our neighbors have to say and we can actually come to a vote. If you have an opinion that you're unsure is popular and you hear a bunch of people applauding for the other side, that's going to stifle debate. That's going to mean that you're less likely to come forward. And we have a chance to have majority rule at the end. We have a chance to express what we think. The only thing that applauding does is make it less likely for somebody who has a key piece of information that might motivate you is going to come down to the front. So please hold the applause. Thank you. On my right.
My name's Homer Stavely, Lyman Road. As far as I could tell, the main complaint, or I should say the main argument, in favor of the proposed article was complaint about the conduct of the select board. The article that the item that we're debating and going to vote on is about the town administrator position. And as a kind of an analogy, I think it's like you got around on a bicycle and you decided you couldn't do all the things you needed to do on a bicycle, so you got an automobile. And now you discover your automobile isn't running the way you want to. Instead of taking it to a qualified repair shop and having people fix it for you, you're going to blow it up with a bazooka round. I think go back to your bicycle. I think we better keep our car and get it fixed if it's not working right. So, as has been said in this debate, get the town select board members that you like and see that they give the proper direction to your town administrator.
Thank you. On my left.
Thank you. Brian Brault. I'm going to start off by saying I'm very concerned about this debate, the way this has all come about, and the divisions that I'm seeing here and the things I'm hearing tonight. I think we need to, as a town, we need to find a way to cut through some of this and have people hear that they're being heard. We need to go through that sort of a process. We're not going to solve that tonight. I think, and I'm not a petitioner, I've spoken with a few people that have approached me. I'm hearing a lot of frustration. I think a lot of this is that people want to be heard and they feel they're not being heard. I can't address that, but I think it's something the town needs to look at and consider. That said, I have very serious concerns about this article. I served on the second of the two town governance study committees. The people that I've spoken with who served on the committee with me, which was the second one, have very serious concerns about this article. The reality is, in this day and age, what is required of our town professionals, whether they be the town administrator, the town clerk, more and more these are professional positions. That's why you're seeing town clerks being moved from they've been elected forever to a lot of places being appointed. It takes a lot of skill to do that. At no point in the governance committee, I don't think that we ever considered decreasing the town administrator position to a town administrative assistant. The amount of work and the expertise that is required are extensive. To do that would literally set this town back 20 years. That is a fact. And if you know anything about town government and you've actually been in town hall and you've served on some of these committees, it's pretty hard to dispute that. So there are a lot of bad feelings here, whatever, but this proposal to me really feels like trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We got some issues we need to solve, but you're talking about making a permanent change in town government that will have ramifications beyond, I think, what most people in this room are considering right now. If we don't have that professional administration, a lot of stuff is not going to happen. It's going to fall apart. And I've served on a lot of committees over the years. Frankly, some better town administrators than others. I'm not going to comment on our current town administrator one way or the other. There have been better ones and there have been worse ones. But even the worst ones were an awful lot better than no town administrator at all. So thank you.
Please hold the applause, folks. On my right.
Tammy Pelletier, Warwick Road. I have several hats to wear this evening, and I was not going to start out with being the chair. I was not going to start out as being the chair of the second town governance committee that I served with Brian, and I'm very proud proud of the work we did. And I will just synopsize because he said it so adeptly that I will be voting no on this for the same reasons that he just mentioned. So that would be my first hat, is Town Governance Committee Chair 2018. My second hat will be as the Vice Chair of the Planning Board, and I would like to express my concerns regarding this article. I don't believe that most people realize the complexities of the town administrator's position. Point in case, at this junction, this position is also the position of the floodplain administrator. The planning board at this time is holding hearings on a very large solar array, controversial, that is primarily on a floodplain on Pine Meadow Road. It's our obligation in this process to have the advice and representation of a floodplain administrator. We would be negligent in our duties not to do so. We have also greatly benefited from the advice and the experience of the administrator's position. And I believe the planning board and many of the other boards would be greatly handicapped if we lost this position. That's obvious that many are not, but so some of this is obvious, but many of the benefits are not in point in case the floodplain administrator, and will unfortunately reveal themselves as we come upon them. So I will be voting no.
Thank you. On my left?
Bruce Kahn, South Mountain Road. My wife was happy to point out to me that I forgot to identify myself before, and now I'm going to have to go home and kick the dog. But I commented about the misdirection of this article, misplaced anger at the select board, but there's another point here too. There's a lot of talk about our current town administrator. There's nothing in this article about our current town administrator. It's an article to remove the position entirely. So I'll give you another analogy. It won't be as funny as my dog analogy, but if you don't like the way the person is delivering your mail, you don't end mail service. So if there's a problem with an individual, there's ways to take that up. It doesn't make sense to eliminate the entire position and change the form of town government because you're upset with the person who's in that position. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Kate Woolner, Linden Avenue. I've worked in human resources, and to me, this problem seems like a personnel issue and should be handled confidentially, not structurally by eliminating a certain position. I think you are considering making a change that won't solve the problem.
On my left.
Hi, Bernie Parada, 67 South Mountain Road. My biggest thing is, again, we've heard a lot of people venting their spleens over the issue of the select board. I have not heard anything specifically or about this article about our town administrator. The select board is her boss. They can, if they feel that she's been incompetent, there's been malfeasance, or an inability to work with the select board or departments, they can take action against it. They can discipline her or all the way go up to saying they're not going to renew her contract. Well, the current select board renewed her contract. Now, she has several months to go on this current contract and has an additional 3 years after that. You remove this position, the town is going to be responsible for her salary. It's going to come out of your pockets for no productivity. And I'd have to say that is extremely foolish. The other thing is, what is the justification for going after specifically the town administrator? I have not heard one clear, justifiable reason to do so. And this is going to send a message to Town Hall if this passes, that any employee can be removed from their job by the town meeting floor. What are those employees going to think? I'm going to work here and I'm not secure in my job, that if somebody doesn't care for me or dislikes me or has some beef, I could lose my job. Good luck finding people to come and work here or even stay here. And I was also part of that second governance committee with the other members who have spoken here earlier. One of the town department heads who's worked here a long time in the highway department was so sick of, when he addressed us, was so sick of the revolving door of town administrators. In his career, he had seen 16 town administrators because no one stayed here. And also, Northfield had a very bad reputation. It did not have a good reputation for people who wanted to come here and work here and serve this town. Is that what you want to go back to? The town hall has been operating very well and professionally. Services are being provided. Our community is in good financial standing. We have no debt. I don't know what you're complaining about. Please tell me. Please address this. And the other thing, too, is some of the biggest complainers never run for office. Take the responsibility that you should, if you're not happy, run for the select board. Join the governance committee or other committees that are in this town. Put your stamp on this town and address that. Don't stand on the sidelines and say, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that. I'm sick and tired of listening to that. Do something about it. I volunteered for 3 committees in this town, put my time and effort, and did not get a dime. But I cared about this town and wanted to do the best I could for this town. But some people are going to be sending an opposite message. And that's very disappointing to me and to many other people. And I just think, and again, legally, this is going nowhere. So great, you're going to vote for this if you do, and it's going to go nowhere. I just remembered we just had another thing that went nowhere and was found that it was not legal that we did. So what did you accomplish? Nothing. So please, vote this article down and send a message that we do care about this town. We are well managed, and I'm sick of people always, banging up the select board. If you don't like it, run for office.
Before we keep going, I just want to remind folks, this is a debate about a position and eliminating a position or not about an individual. On my right.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you. Good evening, friends and neighbors. I'm Alex Meisner, 15 Loretta Lane. Served on the board for 6 years. Of those 6 years, I slept very well for 6 years, and not now because I have kids. They take away your sleep. But I slept well because of a very talented administrative team that I was able to rely on. 3 years as chair as well. So during a select board meeting, I'd be in the room, and if there was a question that I didn't know how to address or how to answer, I would look over to the town administrator and get advice. And at no point during my 6-year tenure did I feel that I put myself or the town in a legal position because of the guidance that I was able to take, being less of a talker and more of a listener, listening to the professionals that we hire. So, I thought about today, should I come up front here? Should I do this? Should I speak? So I thought about it and I said, yeah, I'm going to, because I have something to say about it. It's through a direct primary source experience of my time. Collective bargaining, procurement, contract negotiation, the hiring and unfortunately sometimes firing of employees, it does happen, addressing those types of things and getting the correct guidance from an administrative professional with decades of experience, even somebody who's older than I am, is something that we should value in a community that is continuing to grow and to prosper. And we will blacklist this town, as it's been stated before, for decades. You will move Northfield back to the Stone Age a little bit. The next generation of town administrators wants to be involved with communities that are growing, that are prospering. The grant money is out there, and you have to be a talented grant writer. And our administrative team has been very talented in developing policy and developing the art, grant writing is an art, to acquire some of those grants. Millions of dollars have been achieved in this town alone as a result of the hard work that has been done by our town administrator, and now with the grant development director that we have. But before she was there, the grant development director, that was on the town administrator's desk to do, as well as keeping the select board out of the paper for anything that they did wrong. And we weren't ever in the paper for anything that we did wrong. It was usually something we've done right. And that's usually a good sign that you have a functioning body when you're not in the paper in that fashion. So that's good, right? So I had the pleasure of working with some of these people on the stage here. They're great people. all of them. We had lots of disagreements, and sometimes the town administrator was there to help moderate through our disagreements and to find a common ground so that we could all get along. Did I have disagreements with a town administrator? Oh, sure, there were plenty of them. Plenty of them. We're all different. We all have different personalities. But I felt like through every disagreement that is had, and the people that I unfortunately cannot consider my friends in Northfield anymore because of disagreements, I was still able to learn a little bit more about myself and what I wanted to be in this town. And I think the evolving, just as government gets more complex and democracy gets more complex, unfortunately, the evolving job description of the town administrator, through all these relationships and all these problems, we're able to still move forward and we're still able to learn something. And, but yeah, like I said, all these things that I talked about, I mean, liability, procurement, budgets, and the oversight of all of those things. And from a valuable measurement tool tonight, hearing a couple department heads come forward and saying we don't have that problem, because we don't. And I was honest with people anytime somebody asked me that. No, we don't have any issues like that in town, you know? So just consider what you want for this town and consider what you want the future of Northfield to be. I worked hard for 6 years, and if you can't tell, I was passionate about it. Just watch my last select board meeting. Don't send this town back. Move it forward and respect your board. Like you've heard it too, just run for government. That's what's great about America. Run for government if you don't want to. You can talk and complain and state your opinions and stuff, but run and get involved. I got involved in this position 6 years ago because there were things in town that I didn't like. I wasn't doing it in front of the town meeting floor. I ran a campaign, and it was a good campaign, and I won, beat the other guy, and I got up on that stage. So if you don't like it, run, but don't send the town backwards. So, and thank you for letting me say that tonight. So, cool.
Thank you. On my left.
First, I'd like to apologize for a couple of things. I'd like to apologize for the unproductive filibustering that's going on. We should get this article and move it forward. Second of all, maybe I wasn't quite specific in the limited amount of time I tried to portray to you the reason that I am upset with what happens in select board meetings. There was one selectman who does not fall in favor of the town administrator. One of her employees filed an open grievance, not up in the town administrator's office in writing the way it should be done, fired an open grievance at a select board meeting, bashing the selectmen, bashing members of a committee, creating a spectacle, which I called the Jerry Springer show to the select board meeting.
Excuse me.
And it wasn't entertaining.
As a reminder, we're debating a position, not an individual.
Correct, but I'm talking about the actual problem. The town administrator is the chief human resource officer of the town. She allowed that process to go through on a
We need to
select
stop
board
talking
meeting.
about individuals and talking about a position. I know that's challenging. I know there's a lot of context that you wish to bring into this, but this is about a position and not individuals. We need to talk about the position and the merits of having a position of town administrator here in town.
The problem is you've asked for details. These folks have asked for details.
It doesn't,
We can't do that. That's the problem.
we're limited to
We're
debating.
afraid.
We're limited to debating what is in front of us today, which is eliminating or not a position, and that's what we need to stay focused on.
I was trying to explain to the people who thought that I was being critical of the select board, that there was actually something that I admitted, didn't have time to explain the actual problem with the town administrator. Thank you.
I know some of the frameworks around this might be challenging to debate a position when there's an individual in that position, but it is important that we stay focused on the position of town administrator and whether or not to have that here in Northfield. Yes, next speaker on my left.
Steve Stoyer again, and I apologize for being here again. I just want to say that I heard from one of the department heads, and I want to thank her for her comments, but she doesn't speak for all the department heads. if there was a real evaluation done of the TA because of the petitions, then all the department heads would be interviewed in a really deep way to find out what's going on. And I think if it was done in private, they'd get an earful. So I apologize for keeping you up and keeping you here, but there's more going on here than meets the eye.
On my right.
Someone's tall. Tammy Pelletier, Warwick Road. Let's see, I've worn two hats tonight, one as the 2018 chair of the Town Governance Committee, the second as the vice chair of the Planning Board, and now I would like to address the concerns of the town employees who are most likely on a daily basis to be affected by the outcome of this article, but are unable to vote or to attend because they're not Northfield residents. I believe that the current town hall staff is an extremely cohesive and positive group that does their jobs very well. Town hall employees are distressed and disturbed that any town employee can be dismissed from their position without cause in such an unorthodox manner that conflicts with the Northfield Town employee policy, which affords everybody with a sense of personal value and security. This development has had a decidedly negative effect on the employee morale. The town hall employees respect and value the position of the strong town administrator and would respectfully appreciate a no vote on this article. Thank you.
On my left.
Gary Weiss, Millers Falls Road. Again, this is about a position, not a person. Everybody, the whole thing that they're bringing up seems to be a vendetta against a person, not a position. The position is necessary in a town. You need that legal advice. Oftentimes people get upset because the legal advice might not be what you like, but it is the correct legal advice. You can't get rid of the position that is the head of a town. It's ridiculous to backflow this because you had a fight with the person or they led something wrong. Well, then go to the selectmen and say you want to change that, and they will decide whether they do or not. But I also think we've done this a lot, and I would like to call the vote.
We have to have a new speaker who makes the motion. Yes, sir.
Mitch Damon, 5 Main Street. I'd like to call vote.
Is there a second? We have a motion to move the question, which means we stop debate for a moment and we vote on whether or not we're just going to come to immediate vote on this issue or not.
Just when I get up here, Nick?
Unfortunately, just before you got up there, yes. All in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Clearly passes unanimously. We're now moving directly into into a vote on Article 6. All's in favor of the motion, please signify by just raising your hand.
Wait, what are we, can you repeat that?
We're voting on Article 6, and the motion that was on the floor was to move the question as printed. So as you see Article 6 written in front of you, we're voting whether we adopt that article or not. If you're in favor of adopting that article, you're going to raise your hand when I ask for those in favor. If you're opposed to adopting it, just raise your hand when I ask all those opposed. All those in favor of the article, please raise your hand high. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hands high. It clearly fails. Is there a motion to adjourn? Yes. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of adjournment? All those opposed? Clearly passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, everybody.